Folks, good evening and welcome to a late night edition of the Crowd Assist podcast. Kevin and I have a very special guest, but before we get to that, I just want to remind you guys that as always, show is sponsored by Picasso's Pizza. And I've been preaching to you guys about this ever since we started the cap back up in August. I moved to Long Island last May, and I miss Buffalo Pizza more than anything. Sorry, Mom, but it's true. And thanks to our good friends at Picasso's, I don't have to suffer through any paper-thin Long Island pizza anymore. That's right, they actually shipped me 2 pies that I'm going to cook this Sunday. They ship nationwide. I bet you didn't know that. Well, if you've been watching the show, you definitely do, because I say it every single time. But I'm making them a part of my game day traditions now. You don't have an excuse either, so stop making them. Head to Picasso'sPizza.net, place your order today if you want a chance at getting it by Sunday. As I said, Kevin and I have a great guest joining us from Let's Talk Jets, Tyson Rauch. I forgot to ask, how do you pronounce your last name so I don't...
Rauch? That was awesome.
Man, I'm ready to be a professor and just pronounce people's last names right finally. How's it going over there?
I'm doing great, man. I'm excited, man. Football's finally here. We can talk about, on the field action, not everything else. So I'm fired up, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, same here. It's nice to finally have some good stuff to talk about. Obviously, with Bills playing the Jets week 1, it's nice to have a division rival week 1, someone you're a little familiar with. But with training camp, we were kind of talking about it a little bit before the show. We haven't been able to know a lot about what the Bills have been doing. That's kind of been the same for you, right?
Yeah, I mean it's everything's pretty much hidden. Like they have, everything's closed. You get the warm ups. You see that's pretty much it. Everything else with the Jets control the information, and you're kind of guessing. The only big story for the Jets is the injury report. That's probably the biggest story of the whole preseason or the whole training camp. To be honest with you, it's just every day somebody's going down, and we sit here in panic.
Yeah, and how is that going? Because I know the receivers, yeah, they're doing kind of what's going on?
No, it's right. No, like Perryman's back today. Denzel Mims returned last week, but they've been a mash unit, man. So you have a rookie receiver that had basically no practice. Perryman's been out 2 weeks. So if you want your receiving group to get chemistry with Sam Darnold, not exactly happening right now. You have Crowder and those other guys, but it seemed like every day somebody's going down. They had to bring in Chris Hogan, Dante Moncrief, like guys that you kind of want to laugh about. So it's a work in progress, man. But for week 1 for you guys, it's not ideal, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, I guess we'll start there at the injury report. Looking through it, I've heard some major injuries out of New York. What can you tell us? Anything you know? I mean, I see, you had Crowder, Mims, and Perryman go full practice. You had May, Alex Lewis, Joe Flacco at limited, Terrell Basham at limited, and LaMichael Pirine did not participate. Who do you expect not to play? And even if they do suit up and are active, can we expect much from Mims? I guess we'll just start there at the injury report, and we'll kind of work our way from there.
Well, according to all reports, it seems like Pirine's the only guy that's going to be out, and everybody else is, as of today, is game ready. They're all going to play. But I think with all teams, though, there's going to be a lot of rotation anyway because these guys aren't ready to play 70 or 80 snaps. You know what I mean? Even the best guys in the best shape, like Le'Veon Bell, they're all going to be rotated in and out. With the Jets, though, it's a problem because their best receivers are guys that have been missing practice. So, Mims will play, but I think you can't expect much out of him. He hasn't been practicing. He missed most of this whole little mini training camp they had. So what do you expect out of him? A fly pattern. Go, catch the ball, good luck. And that's really it. You got to count on like a veteran like Hogan. But the injury report, on the other side of the ball, is Pierre Desir has missed most of training camp. That's their corner. That's supposed to be their quote-unquote number 1 corner, would be on maybe Diggs or whoever. So you have a guy with a hamstring injury as a corner. That's not ideal. Brian Poole had dehydration. He's finally back. So it's like every skill position's been like, it's like a freaking hamstring. It's this, it's that. And those are ones that always linger. You know what I mean? Like those are ones you worry about week 1 when you actually go live, full contact, full speed. That's when you get nervous.
Yeah, no, I mean, looking through the report, it doesn't look great and just reports out of there. So, obviously at the running back position, you're down to just Bell and Frank Gore. We know Frank Gore well here.
Just Bell.
Just Bell.
I mean, you can only feed him so much. We watched it last year, and that yards per carry. But do you expect much out of Frank Gore in this offense? I've heard some crazy...
I can ask you that, man. I can ask you guys that. He was your guy that he did well initially, then Singletary took all his snaps. But give me the scouting report on Frank Gore, because all I hear is what Adam Gase keeps praising him like he's the second coming of, the old Frank Gore.
Yeah, I mean, up here, we wanted him out of the carries as soon as possible. Most people... We were just baffled in the playoffs when he was getting carries over Singletary at times. He was between our tackles guy, but Singletary can do that too. We were to the point where I'd rather see TJ Yeldon, who may or may not be active on Sunday, get these carries. Gore didn't really do much. I mean, he's a good presence in the room, so that's cool. For him to be active is fine.
If I hear that one more time, dude, locker room guy, leader. If I hear one more
big
time,
up here.
Break things.
Yeah, it's the Sean McDermott way. I mean, unfortunately we have to go with it because we have a subsection of our fan base who hate it. Like they absolutely hate the culture thing. They hate we call it trusted process, just like Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Same thing we had. We had the same exact thing. And that's what the whole thing Adam Gase said was Le'Veon Bell came into camp in immaculate shape. Six-pack abs, workout videos, boxing, all these things.
They're drafted.
All this crazy work, like the best shape of his life, like 4% body fat. Adam Gase comes to a press conference. Frank Gore's my guy. Frank Gore looks like he was 10 years ago. Frank Gore's our leader. He's like, dude, like, stop it. Like, what are we doing here?
We hope he takes carries from Bell, actually.
Seriously.
That's our biggest fear, to be honest with you. That is our biggest fear because Frank Gore's style more mimics what Gase wants, where it hit the whole guy. Where Le'Veon Bell kind of strings it out, looks for the hole, like he tries to cut back. And that's the problem. But, if Gore starts stealing snaps from Le'Veon Bell, what a disaster this offense is going to be.
Do you have any idea of what like the snap count or like the split might be between them? Because what we've seen is that it's a little closer to 50-50 than people would like. Is it going to be like in my eyes it'd be ideal for it to be like 30-70, like if that.
That's what it should be, dude. I mean, in this case with the receivers so banged up, I'd have Bell all over the place. Put him at receiver, line him up wherever you want. They can put him both in the backfield at the same time, but he has to have the ball in his hands. Like he's the explosive guy in your offense. Like what's Frank Gore going to give you? 6-7 yards fall down, like he'll get that one little burst, and this isn't the old guy, it's not the old guy that they want him to be. And that's the thing with Gase. Like last year, we all thought that I was a big Ty Montgomery fan, who's a very versatile guy, explosive guy.
Yeah.
They had Bilal Powell in the preseason. They featured Ty Montgomery all over the place. Like, oh wow, like we're gonna actually use all our resources. The season started, didn't even use them, and they misused Bell completely. Like Gase's the way he handles his running backs will drive you insane. So we don't know if year 2 it changes or not. Like maybe he learned something, which I doubt because history says he doesn't. But that's the biggest story, to be honest with you. Is how do they use Bell and how do they use Gore?
Now he's 3.2 yards per carry last year. Is that a issue due to the offensive line under 800 yards? You did what the Bills did last year, redoing the O-line.
Yeah.
How is that going to work out for? I mean, with limited preseason games, it's going to take weeks for that to gel. We know up here kind of did last year for us. Now with they're finally the same unit, McDermott's still playing games with who's his right side of the line is going to be, but we generally
Brian
know.
Winters.
Yeah, I mean, all reports that we've had out of camp, he's been awful.
Yeah.
He's not only beat by ex-Panther Darrell Williams, he was beaten out by Tyson Rauch, a guy that's at times said to be the best offensive lineman, even though he's 35 on the Bills roster, which is saying a lot for Deion Dawkins, who just got a big contract, Mitch Morse, who's a high-paid center, Quentin Spain, who got paid as well. So there's some good offensive line talent, but similar to what you guys did this year, is that the issue to Bell last year? I mean, what
last year was a train
that's
wreck.
scary yards per carry numbers.
Dude, that offensive line last year was arguably the worst offensive line I've ever seen. And Gase made no adjustments, and he kept force feeding things. And then it was like you can make a case they should have fired the offensive line coach last year. I have no idea why they didn't, because they had veteran guys. It wasn't like you started 5 rookies and said, okay, we're going to learn together. These are guys that had been around a little bit, and they still couldn't. They didn't know where the blitzes were coming from. Sam was running for his life. Quarterbacks were getting knocked out every week. So it was like they didn't know what they were doing. Now this year, like you guys are a year ahead of us easily in terms of development and growth, and we want to be where you guys are now because you're more ahead of us. And now you try to piece together, say, 4/5 of your offensive line, and no training camp, whatever.
Yeah.
Preseason. So all these pieces, a rookie left tackle who hasn't seen a live NFL rep yet, which is going to be scary. Like, there's so many concerns in terms of communication. Like you guys are going to stack the box and have Jerry Hughes run amok and Ed Oliver do his thing and stunts and all this stuff. Like they're going to be swimming, man, and it's going to take, like you said, 4 or 5 weeks to figure it out.
Now you lost Jonathan Harrison, a guy I was surprised cut. He was in Buffalo today. Can you tell us why you would cut him with? I mean, even as a 6th or 7th offensive active game day guy.
Yeah.
Do you know anything on why that happened? We're trying to figure out insight into what happened with Winters and then what happened with Harrison.
Well, Winters is not good. Winters injuries have taken the best of him. He's not a good player, and I'm a Winters fan. Like I always liked him, but he always played through injuries. A tough nosed guy, a leader, but he's not good anymore. Jonathan Harrison's versatile, man. Like to me, he played center, he played guard, he filled in spot duty in center, played very well. He had good continuity with Sam Darnold. So to me, it's like with this kind of modified year, why would you get rid of a guy that already has chemistry with Sam Darnold if McGovern goes down? Like you have a center here that already worked with him, he's been under fire, has seen it all. Like it made no sense. And they have their guy Josh Andrews that they like, who's
Yeah.
new. Like Joe Douglas is bringing in his type of guys now. He likes the more versatile, more athletic guys.
Mhm.
But the Harrison move bothered me, especially considering all things we're going through now.
Yeah, I mean, we're excited to have him up here because I mean our
I was
offensive line's
pissed.
deep. We run deep. Brian Winters made the roster. That was highly talked about. We gave him $3 million,
Yeah.
guaranteed though. So we have to keep him as a backup guy. We have to play him. There's worse options to play in a spot start or something. But we get John Feliciano back, another really versatile right guard that we love. Played really well down the stretch last year. Toward the end of the season and into the playoffs. He's a guy that tore his pec lift working out. Should be back week 4. So Winters was supposed to be that fill-in, but went and lost to potentially Darrell Williams. So Winters will be active on game day, but we're excited about Jonathan Harrison in here because we think that he's going to come and add just another depth piece. To me, it's like, well, the Bills have a good offensive starting unit and then some depth, and then are willing to add Winters, maybe not the best add,
Mhm.
and then Harrison, who looks to be every depth piece of the Bills have, can play 3 positions, every single player. That's exactly what they're looking for. I wouldn't be shocked to see his name pop up as a sign here soon. What made you think the Jets wouldn't be able to even keep him as a depth piece? Is it just they were looking for the right guys? Like,
This is the Joe Douglas thing. This is
okay.
like this is his first true year to bring in the guys that he wants.
But
like,
you keep
Mhm.
Connor McDermott?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I don't have answers for you. I was shocked. Like I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wait a minute. Of all the guys we're getting rid of, you're taking a versatile guy, an experienced guy, like guy's
Mhm.
valuable, a Walter, like off the field, like a Walter
Yeah.
Payton Man of the Year guy, like all these quality, like. And they said like Sam Darnold was hanging out with him when he got cut. Like they were in the same room hanging out together.
Brutal.
Like that's
Sounds
like
like there's more to that story.
Oh,
Maybe not.
definitely.
I don't know. He's a class act, man. Like, and they were talking about it when they cut him. Like Joe Douglas is like one of the hardest cuts I've ever done. I'm like, well, then all these things you're saying doesn't match what you did.
Yeah.
So this
Very
Josh
bizarre.
Andrews must be really good, or I don't know what it is. It doesn't. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Man. Like,
I
don't-
believe you.
Yeah.
I know McDermott plays a different position, but as long as you rostered him, who was like our worst offensive lineman,
He's not good.
I can't get behind the offensive line moves.
Mhm.
Anything out of Mekhi Becton, a guy huge. He's huge. We know. Is he said to be holding his own at left tackle? Is he going to be able to handle the speed rush of Jerry Hughes or the bull rush against the other side?
That's the rap out of him coming out of college, man. He's a good run blocker. He could run behind him, but then the pass rush, the speed guys, the guys off the edge, all these different things. Jordan Jenkins is trying to challenge him, Quentin Williams, but Jordan, and I love Jordan Jenkins. You can't compare Jordan Jenkins to Jerry Hughes. Like the looks he's going to get from you guys, he probably hasn't gotten from in camp. But supposedly he's a very quick study. He's enormous. He's extremely athletic. He's lost a little bit of weight. He's explosive. And it's just going to be a kind of like a work in progress. But my hope is that Adam Gase isn't so stubborn and arrogant like he was last year.
Yeah.
And put him on an island. If he struggles, they don't adjust to it. Like you have to put it back behind him or put a tight end next to him. If you have to give him help, give him help. Don't say trial by fire and let Sam get his ass kicked. You got to work with the kid. I mean, he's got enormous talent, but
Right.
you wish you had a preseason, man. Like you wish you had live reps
Mm.
other than seeing Jordan Jenkins every day. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you need somebody else.
Jets more than other teams looks like they would have benefited highly,
Yeah,
especially in that
four new
O-line
linemen,
receiver.
dude.
Yeah.
4 new offensive linemen. That's a big change. And then you add in 2 new receivers. I mean, that's a lot to ask.
Mhm.
To in a modified training camp.
Yeah, and also, losing C.J. Mosley to an opt-out, and obviously Jamal Adams getting traded away. I was kind of curious, like, how did the Jets fan base, like, in general, other than a very vocal majority on Twitter, I guess, how did they take the Jamal Adams trade, and how do you guys kind of stack up at safety now? Because, the defense isn't quite what it was last year.
Jamal Adams, maybe 5 months ago, was an enormous fan favorite where everybody wanted to re-sign him and pay him and keep him in the fold.
Yeah.
And then he just went off the rails, man. And he begged his way out of town. He did everything possible, which I'm sure you guys saw. I mean, he pretty much burned every bridge possible to get out of town.
Yeah.
And I give Joe Douglas credit where he got a max deal from him. He got 2 first-round picks. Which
Yeah,
we
I was
know-
impressed. Yeah.
Dude, I thought he was blowing all the leverage possible where teams are going to be like, listen, you know what? He wants out of town. We're
Did
not
get
going to
good
give you
picks.
anything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think Joe Douglas did great. In terms of replacing Jamal Adams, he's an emotional leader. I mean, he's probably their best pass rusher, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I think the one positive to come out of this is Marcus May's always been a very good player, and it was probably underutilized last year. Like, whenever you saw him play, he was dropping back 25 yards from the line of scrimmage. I mean, he was so far back, he was off the TV screen,
Mhm.
And now they're letting him attack, but the problem is, can he stay healthy? And that's always been his bugaboo. They have,
Yeah, and I
Ashton
mean-
Davis, another a speed guy that's an element they didn't have last year. And then you had McDougal from Seattle, who's like more of like a box safety.
Box
So
safety, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They have some talent. I mean, Jamal's a dynamic player, but when he starts trashing your owner, your coach, your GM, he's basically telling fans off on social media. I mean, he pulled like a Beckham, dude. He had to go. Like, it's.
Did you like the trade? All said and done, everything considered.
Yeah, like I'm a Jamal fan. Like, I wanted to find a way to keep him. I thought he's a kind of guy you build your defense around. But after all he did and that kind of compensation, of course, next year the draft's gonna be a mess because half the teams aren't playing. But that kind of compensation, you can't be mad at it, man.
Yeah, I think overall. Oh, sorry, Kevin. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah. I mean, I thought they did really well. All things considered, I think maybe the pandemic helped out a little bit, knowing that draft picks maybe were watered a little. But I think that it was a really good compensation package that they got for him. And I was always a fan of the May Adams combo. I think May's underrated. The Bills are very used to an underrated safety combo. I mean, it's probably one of the best in the league with Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. So we're very aware of it. Both have been rewarded with extensions at points. You have Poyer getting his extension. You had obviously the big Trey White news. So I heard some Jets guys coming out while the Bills did what the Jets should have done with Adams with Trey White.
But Trey White's elite. I mean, corner position and safety is a whole different. I mean, that's a great contract for the Bills, man. That's awesome.
Especially with the deal came out.
The Ramsey deal.
Yeah. Crazy. So 6 years, $84 million. I mean, that is factoring this low first-round pick, end of the first-round pick deal that he has. But all things considered, I mean, the Bills traded basically. I mean, they didn't basically. They traded Patrick Mahomes, the pick that was Patrick Mahomes, and it's highly talked about. But they did about as well as you could have getting Trey White out of that draft, as well as Josh Allen the following year with the future pick and Tremaine Edmonds. That's who they received out of it. If you had to get rid of the pick that was Patrick Mahomes, the Bills did absolutely everything that you could have to maximize it. Our really young and great Brandon Beane general manager wasn't in place yet, so it's tough to say that they should have drafted their future quarterback when their general manager, who was going to come in a couple of months, was going to draft a quarterback at that position. So it is contested, but Trey White's turned out every way that we could. He's been loved here by the community. He's a joker. He's been everything and more. He locks down number one receivers. He's just everything that the Bills could have ever imagined. And he plays perfectly into the McDermott defense. So we're used to the DB. So back on point, I love the May Adams combo. Can you expect a similar thing with Ashton Davis? I'm not a big Bradley McDougald fan myself. I thought he was kind of just a throw-in that maybe you guys asked for to get a starting level guy back. But I think Ashton Davis needs to play week one. I mean, what do you have to? That's my opinion. What do you think?
I think they're gonna go three safeties. To be honest with you, they're gonna use all three of them. And Ashton Davis flies, man. Every report is a kid sideline to sideline, explosive, great ball skills, can move around. That's a really great piece for Greg Williams because Marcus May's got good range too. So if you want to have May and Davis back there and let McDougald, patrol the line of scrimmage, whatever you want to do. I think they play three safeties though. I really do. But now the only problem is Ashton Davis too is a rookie, man. Like he's gonna get confused, communication issues, all these different things. Like you're encouraged by certain things, but there's red flags. That's just being honest, saying, hey, listen, you're a rookie, man. You're gonna like. Stephon Diggs can play games with you. Like there's ways you can look.
He plays games with Trey White.
Yeah.
Like you imagine being a rookie, like your first NFL game and no preseason. Like he's gonna be swimming a little bit, and that's the concern.
Yeah, we're kind of seeing the same thing with AJ Epinesa. Sorry. But
sorry. Yeah, to stay on, to kind of end that point. If you played three safeties, would you take a linebacker off the field, your nickel corner off the field? What's the idea there?
I'd take a linebacker off. Our linebackers aren't good to begin. I mean, they're not. They're good, but they don't have a lot of speed. A linebacker, to be honest with you. I mean, Blake Cashman's the only guy that has some speed. Avery Williamson's coming off injury. A lot of these guys can't really run. So if we can make up with like a safety, I'd probably do that. Especially when you guys are probably going to spread us out, I would think. So you have to go safeties. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I was going to say we're kind of seeing the same thing with our first pick of the draft, AJ Epinesa. Like he's a great player and everything, but just due to what seems like obviously we have a little more depth at his position than the Jets do at safety. But due to the depth and the lack of a preseason, he's looking to be like a very, very low end of the totem pole on the rotation there that we usually do, which is kind of shocking for me just because like he was supposed to be a first round pick. I remember sitting in the basement here when we drafted him and I like started jumping up and down, realized I was by myself, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm allowed to be excited.
You got to think everybody's going to get so many snaps, man, because they're all going to have to rotate because nobody's in shape. They're not in football shape for 4 quarters. They're not. They're all going to be gassing out, and they're going to have to come out, and we're all going to see significant reps at this point.
Yeah, that's true. What I was shocked about with the Jets not making any transactions on the waiver wire, I fully figured them to do something. The Bills are in a different position there. They're trying to hold on to their own. They honestly didn't want to expose. I really thought that Robert Foster would end up in New York. It was just something I thought he would play well there. And they didn't. I mean, the Bills basically traded him to Green Bay in a way for Jay Kumaro in a practice squad swap. No practice squad transactions. What's going on there?
Dude, I went on a rampage because I was like, the Jets are in such a point now, they need talent everywhere. And now if you don't, even not need talent for week one, just for the rest of the season, bring guys in here, get them in the facility, see what you have, and groom them for the rest of the year, and maybe even next year. Like, find talent wherever you can, because there's holes, legitimate holes all over. Pass rusher, corner, wide receiver, all these ends. Like, you see them make no moves, you're like, and you hear them today talk about, well, we like the guys we have. Like, come on, man. Like, listen, I know that you're proud of what you draft and the guys you bring in, but me and tell me there's 31 other teams. Nobody piqued your interest at all.
Right.
I mean, it's mind blowing. I understand like the known versus the unknown because there's no preseason tape. You don't really know what you're getting. That's why you have a practice squad. The guys who you want, you get rid of them. Like it's not like a lifetime contract. Like I was. There is a level of arrogance with this Jets front office and coaching staff that bothers me at times, and this is one of the times where it bothered me. Like I'm a Shaq Griffin guy. Like I'm like you mean tell me like Shaq Griffin? You couldn't bring him in, and that kind of speed. Special teams, like all these things, you couldn't bring him in and just see what happens. He's only on a practice squad in Seattle. Like you can't use that here in some facet. I didn't get it, man. Like I don't.
Yeah.
It's a weird handling of the team right now.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because like my first impression of Joe Douglas was his draft this year, and I was a huge fan of Denzel Mims, Ashton Davis, Mekhi Becton, Bryce Hall. I mean, like you guys had like a very, very solid draft. But it just seems he hasn't been able to kind of follow it up with a series of competent moves. And I thought I heard someone say earlier that like he and Gase are kind of like Gase was the guy or Douglas was the guy that Gase like wanted to bring in for the GM job. So are these two guys like are their futures kind of intertwined now? Do you think?
Well, Gase got him the job. That's the problem. Gase got the general manager fired and then got his buddy hired.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's like, all right, now it's like there's a power struggle. Both these guys report to the owner. They don't report to each other, which is a problem.
Yeah.
So it's not like, you know what I mean? That's automatically, the hierarchy just makes no sense whatsoever. And there's always the wonder, how much power does Gase actually have? Like, when you sign a Frank Gore over all these other guys that were out there, all these speed guys, is that really a smart move for a team that's trying to, in theory, rebuild? Is that a good complimentary guy to Le'Veon Bell? My answer is no.
I mean, you brought in Kalen Ballage, though.
Thank God he failed. Thank God he failed his physical.
Yeah, I know.
God, dude. But
I was bummed out. I thought he might actually get snaps.
Yeah.
But it's like it's crazy though. It's like you don't know what the power struggle is there. Like who has the final say? They say all the right things in the media, but behind the scenes you can kind of see some of these things. Like, come on, man, you're not being completely forthcoming here. So Douglas is in a tough spot because the fan base is tired of losing and. The expectations aren't playoffs this year, but we want to see competitive football. So if you don't get in that 7-8 win range, it's like a 5-11 just dumpster fire. Gase is in a hot seat, man, and the pressure's gonna be on Joe Douglas to do something. Like he can't keep kind of tease everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you look at it, two player. I mean, we'll talk about this real briefly because I'm sure it's beat up. But two players that are tied forever is going to be Sam Darnold and Josh Allen. Same draft. Jets had the first choice beside Baker Mayfield. To make that decision. Obviously, both the Bills and the Jets made a better decision than Josh Rosen. Not as good, I guess, with Lamar Jackson, if that's what you want to call it. What are your thoughts on Darnold's? I heard some of your callers say that they wanted him to make the Pro Bowl or thought that he might make the Pro Bowl this year. What's your take on Darnold? Is he your long-term answer? Do you have any? Was he the right pick? Were you looking for Baker? Did you hope for Josh? Was it Rosen? Like, what was your on the 2018 draft?
I'll say this. I wish Sam Darnold has what Josh Allen has. Like, the Jets have failed Sam Darnold. Like, I think the kid's got a lot of talent. He's super young. He's 23, 24 years old. Super young, a lot of talent, and they have failed him with a bad offensive line, with no playmakers. Then he had mono of all things. Like, whatever could go wrong, went wrong. And then this year, again, it's like you're patching together offensive line with not, if we're being completely honest, we don't have 5 all-stars. You have journeyman guys you're taking a chance on. Like Greg Van Roten's not an all-star.
No.
Alex Lewis is okay. Becton's a rookie. McGovern is a mid-tier center. These aren't, you're not putting together they didn't go out and get Jack Conklin. So the offensive line still kind of question marks. The playmakers, Perriman is a guy. Like, he had 5 great games. What about the rest of his career? What is that? So it's not like you're giving Sam Darnold all this stuff. I think he's smart. He's a hard worker. He's athletic. He does all the right things. He likes to learn. But between what's around him and then the question about the head coach and his play calling, dude, I think he's a franchise quarterback. I think he has all tools to do it. But right now they're failing him, and they're still failing him today. And does that change as we go forward? I really don't know. Like it's worrisome because now that you see the New York media now, where it's like, oh, boomer bust year for Sam. He doesn't do this year. Not good this year. Got to get Trevor Lawrence next year. That sets us back 5 more years. It's like you got to get one guy and build around him and do the right thing. And the Jets just don't do that.
How about do you buy into the fact that, how about this? A lot of people say Josh Rosen failed because same reason that you're talking about.
They killed that kid. Yeah. They did.
But Darnold still was able to get through a lot of it with bad teams, with mono, with bad coaching, bad play calling. That says a lot. I mean, I do believe that Rosen was probably dealt a bad hand. But if you're better, look at Kyler Murray. Josh Allen had an awful. We're ahead in the rebuild right now, but he came in very similar situations that you're talking about now, with a bad offensive line, no weapons. I mean, the weapons were Robert Foster,
Kelvin Benjamin,
Kelvin Benjamin, who's now doing groceries.
Popeye's biscuit away from being a tight end, best line ever.
I mean, now you're looking at a totally revamped. They went out and spent on Beasley and Brown, and Diggs, and they got a really good 4th round pick in Gabe Davis. Watch him this weekend, by the way. He's been the talk of camp. He's been as good as anyone on the field for a 4th round rookie. So all the Bills fans are very interested to see these 3 receivers who we knew were good, and now we have a 4th guy that made Robert Foster expendable, etc. We're very interested to see that Josh Allen has a completely overhauled, really talented wide receiver room. But to the main question here, do you think that Rosen was ever good enough? Because Darnold's been dealt the same hand, and I wanted to talk to Jets people about this because to me, that's not much different. Maybe a tiny bit of stability more, if that's what you want to call it. But has he been dealt a better hand?
Yeah, Rosen, it seemed like I don't know if he was mentally into it, if he had the fortitude to actually get through some of the adversity and to be able to fight back the media, the fans, dribbling around him. It seemed like he got consumed by all the nonsense. You know what I mean? Where, like, I give Darnold credit, man. That ghost thing on primetime football.
Oh, my God.
ESPN saying, I see ghosts. Most quarterbacks can melt there. You're like, you know what? This is the end of this kid. He's going to get run out of town. He can't handle it. And he handled it. Like, it's the Rosen wasn't like that. Remember he said, like, oh, I'm going to make the teams that passed on me, they're going to regret this decision, all this stuff. Rosen talked the talk, didn't really back it up. Sam doesn't talk at all, man. He kind of stays to himself. He just keeps trying to just, get through it and get through it with hard work,
I find it amusing that Allen and Darnold are really pretty close.
Yeah,
they're really close friends.
Yep.
They went to draft academy. They're both represented some weird clause by Jordan Palmer. I don't know how that plays a role if he gets percentages of their earnings for life. I don't really know how that works. Their deal there, but they seem to be close friends. So obviously they both want to beat each other, and I think they're 500 against each other. I'm not sure because I can't recall what games. Allen's missed a game or 2 against the Jets, and so Darnold's played in them all actually. Because week 1 he played, and the end of the year he played last year. So Darnold I think has.
He didn't beat Josh Allen though.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
He beat second and third stringers.
That's true. He did. That was a bizarre game.
Yeah, it was a weird one.
We barely won that one. It was embarrassing.
I don't think either team was playing. We're just like, let's just quit this thing. We need to get to the playoffs. You guys need to make sure you don't get any major injuries going into the offseason.
Well, what do you guys think about Allen, though? Are you guys like big Allen supporters? Do you think he can get to where he's a consistent passer and more like a streamline his game, or do you think he's just going to be a raw talent always where it's going to be a little bit erratic?
Yeah, so I was a fan of Josh Allen prior to the Bills drafting him. I thought he was right there with the other 2. You could go any way with the 3 of them. Yep. I think that I'm going to say I think he has a ton of talent. It's the leadership intangibles of Josh Allen we weren't fully aware of. He had those weird tweets that were surfacing the day of the draft. People weren't quite sure what he was going to do. That talent was raw, but I mean, he's just infectious. Anyone that comes in, the Bills' actually main Twitter account just changed their profile just now to a picture of Josh Allen's mustache.
Yeah,
he just got that swagger that Tyrod Taylor had a little tiny bit of, but the Bills haven't had since Jim Kelly. So he's got those intangible factor that I don't think you can pay for. I don't think you can find. Like you're saying, Josh Rosen maybe was missing. He had that intangible factors. The running ability is insane. I mean, he's just an incredible athlete. No one thought he had as good as any running quarterback in the league. I mean, he's dangerous on the ground. And he just improved so much in the intermediate game that it goes to the wayside because, they missed on some deep balls, but they didn't really have the greatest deep threat last year. That'll change this year with Diggs being one of the best deep threats in the league. Will free up his other weapons. And some of that gelling that you were talking about just hasn't happened. So Josh Allen's is just such a fabulous, talented player that I think sometimes draft Twitter will get out over him for his completion percentage, but they're really hyper-focused on one specific thing. They forget how bad his team was year one, that the Bills are 15-9 in games he started and finished. He's just been – and that's through some bad rosters.
Playoffs.
That
matters.
Yeah, and he's made the playoffs. And, I mean – the team played really well. They actually, to me, had a defensive meltdown, which is shocking in the playoff game. We're up 16-0. They had that weird play in the end zone where the receiver was a touchdown by
rules. Yeah.
By rules, it was a touchdown. That at very minimum was a safety for a forward pass in the end zone. Would have changed the game. Josh Allen did lead them back for a game-tying field goal after blowing a 19-point lead. And then as well as in overtime, they had an awful wedge block call that would have ended the game as well. That's now the rule's gone, I think, from that game specifically, that they got rid of that blindside lock.
Yeah.
And toward the end. So Josh Allen's done everything we could ask for him. Obviously this year, the sights of the division, obviously here in Buffalo, the sights are a home playoff game if they're going to be fans or not, and obviously at least making to the division or a conference round potentially against one of those big. You'll see the Bills-Chiefs game Thursday Night Football in Buffalo in a couple of weeks. So that's a big one that many people around here. So Josh Allen's done a lot in his limited time, and I think that even the haters here that wanted Josh Rosen, wanted Sam Darnold, to a lesser extent, we figured he'd be gone. That they're all converted. I would say it's 90% approval rating for Josh Allen here at this point. Media's probably 70-30. And then obviously national draft Twitter's like 50-50. So
that might be generous.
And I'll bounce to Jake to kind of give you his thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm a case study for the guys who Kevin said that wanted Rosen, wanted Darnold, wanted literally anybody else. I was on the train of take Lamar Jackson at the end of the end of the first round, maybe use your second pick in the first if you couldn't move back for it and just take him and, use the capital a little more wisely. But, as someone who was probably the most skeptical that you could have been, I'm not fully converted, but I'm a believer. I'm a supporter. I think that, as Kevin said, he has the tools, he has the intangibles. And we had Greg Tomset from Cover One, that's a podcast in Buffalo, and he's been doing some analysis on Josh's mechanics from the limited amount of what we've been able to see through training camp. And he just walked us through it for 5 minutes on the one show and just told us exactly why, if he can keep up what he's doing in practice, it'll be a better deep ball. It'll be better. The intermediate range is going to get even better. And even those intangibles, all the Bills players say, they talk about everything with him, whether it's, politics or sports or, family life, everything. They're human beings and friends and not just teammates. And, say what you want about culture, but, if that's what you're, one of the main things you're building your team around, Josh Allen is one of the perfect quarterbacks you can have for that. So, what I'm curious is how Jets fans feel about Josh Allen.
Well, see, there's the angry Jets fans, and then there's the kind of ones that are kind of realistic, understand what's really going on. I respect Josh Allen. I think he's a phenomenal talent. I think he's got a huge arm, his running ability. And if he improves a little bit, he's a really good player, man. I respect all of that. I think the Buffalo Bills do a good job of building around him and playing to his strengths. Sometimes you force a system on a quarterback that doesn't work. They're actually working with Josh Allen. They're trying to maximize what he can do and make him it makes a lot of sense. It's a recipe for success. So a lot of Jet fans he sucks. He can't throw the ball. He's not consistent because they just want to hate on him. They take draft Twitter, they put it in their tweet, and they fire it out. And they don't really watch what he does.
Yeah.
And I watch the playoff game. Listen, the kid's feisty. He's a leader. He refuses to quit. He'll keep grinding. He's tough. Takes a big hit. He pops back up. He embraces it all. He really enjoys the game, and everybody kind of tracks to him. So I respect him, dude. I don't have the hatred everybody else has for him. I think he's a hell of a player. He's got obviously he has some room to improve. But so does Sam Darnold. They all do, you know. But he's in the right spot for him to do well. So listen, man, he's got a shot to be really good, man. I have no no anger towards him whatsoever. Like it's
Yeah, and I mean,
Mhm.
similarly
respect.
here in Buffalo with Sam, I don't think anyone hates on Sam up here. I think a lot of
No.
people actually were thinking maybe if the Jets took Baker or the Jets, because that was really talked about at the point, or if the Allen went one to Cleveland and Baker went to the Jets, it was pretty much Darnold here. So we liked him. I think there's some jokes going on with the ghosting, but the where wasn't there. Other than
Yeah.
that, I mean, I think most people up here respect Darnold and to lack of a better term, are happy he hasn't been placed with better players because obviously it helps the Bills that the Jets are struggling. But I'd like to see him with a talented team. I think he's a very good player. I think limits the turnovers a little bit, and I think that he could have a really great future. So I hope they don't give up on him. It would be absolutely shocking if they have a bad year this year and they're going the Trevor Lawrence route, like you mentioned. You don't want to put him in the Rosen pool because he's not Rosen. So most Bills fans, honestly, I think are hoping that we're going to get another really good situation. We're going to have a long-term quarterback battle between the two of them, and hopefully Tua doesn't enter that discussion anytime soon. So I think that's that we're going to have that give and take for 10 years. But I guess anything can happen in 3 weeks, let alone 10 years.
Of course. But you look at Sam Darnold and you compare his supporting cast to every other young quarterback in football, whether it's Drew Lock, Kyler Murray, anybody, Baker Mayfield. They're all look at Josh Allen. Like you can make a case. And I think I've done it like 30 times. Like, he's in the worst scenario out of all the young quarterbacks in terms of head coach, offensive line, and playmakers. All of them. Like and that's the problem. And that's
it was him and Rosen for sure. And Rosen just completely failed. And Darnold's done way more with it. So I'm interested to see it. I'm interested to see if he can make Mims a player. I'm interested to see how he does with Perryman. I know they're not the greatest top-end talent, but maybe if Darnold has a great year, they can be. So we're watching that.
And Chris Herndon
we're nervous about it. We're definitely nervous about it. But going to this game, week 1, I mean, we're focused here now, back to short term. What do you think of this game? Is it something the Jets are going to come up here to Buffalo and hopefully catch them by surprise in a week 1 element with no fans? That raucous crowd's now gone here.
And we're all on a level playing field
last year.
Yeah.
So is it something that what are you guys going in? Just it's week 1, so I mean obviously everyone's happy. What's your thoughts on the game? Is it something you're looking for just improvement? You're looking to keep it a 1-score game. You're looking to think that you have the upper edge. Where are you at with this being only 4 days away?
Well, I think there's a couple different things. I think the first thing, no crowd actually helps. Thank God for that. That's definitely an advantage. But I think the Jets have one thing in their favor is that everybody's been discounting them and calling them the worst team of football and they're a bottom 5 team. So if you listen to some of the press conferences and even some of the players, it's us against the world. They have a little chip on their shoulder where everybody's counting them out, and that's pissing them off, which I'm glad. Like, you want to see some fight. You want to see some pride. You want to see all these different things. That's awesome. The problem I have is there's so much change in so little time. And you guys have a lot of continuity where we're trying to overhaul our entire offensive line in one game. You don't have this, there's a significant change we're trying to do in a short period of time. So you guys, like I said, are a year ahead. That's what I'm worried about. And I think your strengths are our weaknesses where you have, the wide receiver group. I really have no idea how we're going to cover those guys, especially Diggs. You can spread us out, and the corners I don't think are strong enough to do that. Les Austin's a second-year guy who has a lot to prove. This year is not a speed demon. Brian Poole's pretty solid. The run defense should be okay. I just think you're, like you said, you're a year ahead, and your continuity is probably going to be the difference. I think overall the game is going to be sloppy as hell, penalties and poor tackling, and that's going to be all across the NFL.
For sure.
I'm hoping that the Jets have a spirited effort where they keep the game somewhat close and it's competitive. Like they give a max effort where they're fighting for it. They understand what they're doing. It's a legitimate game plan, not just
I'll be nervous. I'll be a lot more nervous in this game week 7 in New York when the Jets
Absolutely
have their line underneath them. We might have a different discussion in set 6 or 7 weeks here.
Like a rookie left tackle, man, in his NFL debut with limited experience going against you guys where it's going to test every facet of him. Like I worry about how the Jets actually come out with a game plan. Like I'd go like a jumbo set and just try to run the ball as much as possible to get everybody comfortable. Like just get everybody comfortable and just get like the first say quarter and a half, just get yourself established. Like, get yourself together, get your line calls down, keep Sam healthy and not with his helmet backwards, and see if you can kind of hang in there.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll be honest, if you guys don't run 40 times, I'll be shocked. I mean, it should be Gore, it should be Bell, it should be even screen passes to catch the aggressive defense off Kettleter. I mean, if you're trying to throw, the DBs are the strength of the Bills. You know, number one corner, really good safety combo, a really good nickel. Their cornerback 2 is up in the air between Norman and Levi Wallace, who's done
He's
it.
hurt, right?
He's hurt.
Yeah, he had a hamstring like strain or something, but I think he'll be back like for the game. I'm not sure.
Yeah, by all accounts, he'll play. If not, they like Levi Wallace a ton. He's had tons of starts underneath this defense. They'll hide him anyways. They'll get tons of safety help, linebacker help, Matt Milano. There'll be tons of help over there, especially they can dedicate over there. I wouldn't. Anyways, I hope the Jets don't try to come in throwing. I don't think that's smart. Run the ball. I mean, the Bills, if they've struggled, it's because they're aggressive. They've made some errors against the run. That's how the Texans got back into the game in the playoffs. That's been their calling card. If they have a falter for a number 2 defense, it's right there. Run right at them. If that offensive line can get going for the Jets, even a little bit, I think they can find some success. So if they come out throwing, that'll play right into the Bills' hands. I mean, with their aggressive linebacking core, A.J. Klein, Matt Milano, Tremaine Edmonds, it's exactly what the Bills will want. So I guess if the Jets can stay close, stay where they can run the ball, not have to air it out, I think they're in good shape. I think they're in good shape to at least make a little bit of noise in this game.
Yeah, I mean they have Chris Herndon over the middle who didn't play last year. He's a very good tight end if he can stay healthy.
Yeah.
You have Crowder over the middle. There's certain things you can do in the middle. Ryan Griffin coming back from injury, he's another guy that was like a safety valve for Sam. So there are some things you can do. Maybe open that up over the middle, have a deep pass to Perryman or whatever. There's little like, but I would use Le'Veon Bell as a slot receiver. I would put him everywhere. Like, give him the ball 30 times this game. I don't care how you get the ball in his hands. Just find a way to give him the ball in space.
Just do what they did in Pittsburgh. Like, literally.
Exactly.
They drew up the playbook.
Science,
yeah.
Like, the blueprint's there. I don't know why Gase doesn't follow it. But, take advantage of an aggressive defense and try to offset that pass rush. And my concern is
Crowder went for 14 catches last year on us.
Yeah,
14 for like 80. Yeah, it was something like that.
And then protect Becton. Like, my fear is that don't let the rookie get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
If you have to go 2 backs in the backfield, do that. Like, and my thing is with Gase is like, listen, you've had the entire offseason to game plan for this. This isn't like you should kind of understand what all your challenges are. Be ready for it. Don't get caught off guard here. Like, anticipate some bad things happening because they're probably going to happen. Like, adjust and don't wait 3 quarters to do it. And that's the one thing with Gase. His first 15 scripted plays are usually genius, and then after that he goes into a shell and takes him to a third quarter to figure it out again. Like, you got to be more consistent and kind of assume when bad things are happening, how to adjust to it, make changes, change your offensive line if you have to, I mean,
what's the keys to the game for the Jets?
That's a good question.
Protected? Is it what's the keys to the game if you're the New York Jets to steal a win in Buffalo?
Run the ball, offensive line play, run the ball, control the clock. The more you can keep your offense off the field, obviously, the better off you are because you're going to put up points. I like Diggs. I'm a Stephon Diggs fan. I was pissed when you guys got him. You got playmakers. Singletary's fast as hell. You got a lot of moving pieces. So we want your offense off the field. Play physical against the run, and just make it an ugly game, man. Like that's the only. I hate being like sounds like a pathetic answer, but you got to make it ugly, grind it out, ground the pound, play physical. I think there's gonna be not as many penalties. Like it's gonna be sloppy football. And the thing we haven't really talked about is special teams. Nobody's practicing special teams because there's not really much you can do. There's not a lot of live drills.
True, yeah.
So God knows what we're getting there. I mean, the Jets kicker is horrendous. I hate him. They have a rookie punter who has a big leg, but what do you get out of him? The returners. I mean, that could be some hidden yards, some hidden points there that we really don't even know what we're getting there because they're just unproven.
And the Bills totally they spent the offseason revamping their special teams.
They prioritize special teams over here in Buffalo. Like any guy, if you're not a starter, you have to contribute on special teams or you won't be a depth piece. Like that's just how it is with McDermott.
Yeah, and Tyler Matakevich, they paid him a lot of money to come over from Pittsburgh. They tied Taiwan Jones, a guy from the Texans, over. Their linebacking core and A.J. Klein can dual, start and can play teams.
Even Reggie Gilliam, the fullback from Toledo.
Gilliam, they found a guy out of the MAC that blocked 6 kicks. So they went deep. The Bills struggled just like you don't like Fick and I don't like Corey Bajorquez. Our punter's terrible.
Yeah.
He's just awful. He's atrocious. So maybe have a good kick, 60, 65-yard punt, and then the next one will be 27-yard net. He's awful. I cannot believe he hung on to his punting job, so we'll see if that plays a role. The return game, obviously, Roberts is good. Have a huge legged kicker that beat out Stephen Hauschka. They loved him. He got picked a little bit after Rottweiler in New England, the first kicker off the board.
Yeah, that guy. Rohrwasser? Yeah, maybe.
Rohrwasser. Tyler Bass then went early in the 6th round, who has been great in camp. Huge leg. He matched Stephen Hauschka and more. Hauschka struggled down the stretch last year. Did play well in the playoffs, though. Interesting you guys didn't check out Hauschka.
Yeah, really.
For the struggles with Ficken, I think that would be a natural. I was expecting that. I was like, oh, there we go. Stephen's going to hit a game-winning field goal in New Era Field, or now Bill Stadium.
Yeah, Bill
I
Stadium.
should call it. He's going to do it. That's how it's going to go. I know. I feel it right now that he's going to come in and hit 3 to 4 field goals.
Nope, Sam Ficken makes no. I still.
You lost on Vedvik.
Sticking with Ficken. Come on, you can't be excited about that.
And Vedvik was bad in camp too. Like there was not one point where he was good. And then Joe Douglas and his handling of kickers and backup quarterbacks drives me absolutely insane. Like I do not understand any of it. I will never understand it. We have 5 quarterbacks now. I have no idea why. 3 of them are terrible. So can't make it up,
I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the Bills made it to 20. Your roster reminds me a lot of the 27. I don't mean to say you're 3 years behind. 2017 Bills where they made the playoffs out of nowhere. It can happen. I don't particularly think either of our schedules are that hard. I don't think they play the world's best quarterbacks. I think the Bills have the 27th rated schedule against the quarterback.
Yeah.
The teams are themselves, they have a pretty good schedule, but they don't play a ton of top end talent. Jets could sneak in with this 8 or 7 playoff teams now. I don't know. I always wonder. I mean, I'm wondering if Miami or New York can come in and take one of those playoff spots if they have just Sam Darnold. I think is good enough to take one of those positions. So let's kind of wrap it up. What's your long-term outlook of the New York Jets? Is it to get to 7-9, 8-8, show some progress? Is it to get to 9-7 and be there? What is it at the end of the day for the New York Jets?
I think it's a tremendous amount of pressure in the first 4 games to find a way to get 2-2. They got to find a way to get 2-2. If they start out that 1-3, 0-4, even 1-3, the media, the fans, everybody's going to turn on them, and the pressure on this team to perform will go absolutely, ballistic. If they can find a way to get 2-2 and just get that offensive line just running, like we talked about. This offensive line can hold their own so they can actually open up the playbook. I think Sam could do some things. Like I like the way he is. I think if he takes the next step, he makes receivers around him better. Maybe Le'Veon Bell could be a lot better. Like my whole thing with the Jets is all these ifs. If 10 ifs can happen, they could be a 9-7 team. If only 5 ifs happen, they're gonna be 6-10. I think that if they stay competitive, like the one thing with Adam Gase, who I don't like as head coach, they didn't quit on him last year.
That's true.
I was surprised. Like they could have went 3-13 or 4-12 and really mailed it in. They didn't do that. So I give them credit for that. Do they have that same fighting spirit now? They seem like they do. They're kind of pissed off that they're being discounted endlessly everywhere. Just find a way. If they can still win Sunday against you guys, that's a huge boost.
Oh yeah.
That's like, all right, now we're gonna open some eyes. Now we're gonna get confidence that everything Gase sold them, it bought into him and it paid off. Like that's the thing. The one biggest thing with him is he's kind of a weird coach. So if his stuff actually works, they'll all start buying in. If they start getting their doors blown off the first couple of weeks, they play the 49ers after you guys.
Yeah, you guys have a tough schedule out of the gate. Then it's the Broncos and the Colts, right?
Yeah, so if you say we lose, just saying theory, we lose 27-10 to you guys, and we lose 27-10 to the 49ers, you're demoralized, the morale goes down, nobody's buying in, you're going to start, finger pointing starts. You still win here. Like, a lot of things can change. So, to me, it's the first 4 games. Find a way to go 2-2. Fair. If you can do that, 8-8 could be a playoff spot.
That 17 Bills team went 3-1 out of the stretch, and that's really where the momentum was built.
Yep.
And I think the Jets need to do something. And the Bills caught a really good Falcons team at the prime of and went in Atlanta and won. And that was the first stage of like, hey, is this team potentially good? That's what the Jets need to go into play San Francisco and show the same exact situation. They can come out with something scrappy against the Bills. Go into San Fran. Is it home? Is it New York or is it?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Home game against San Fran. West to East.
Yeah.
I don't think they're all that great right
Yeah.
now.
And what I will say you guys have is Greg Williams isn't a bad defensive coach. He's actually a very good defensive coach. So if when the Bills made that surprise playoff, a couple years ago, it's because the defense was super good and the offense was passable. So if Sam Darnold can be, as we've said probably 20 times already, if he just can show his talent, if the receivers can help him get the job done, and the defense can be at least most of what it was last year. It's 8-8, 9-7. It is on Gase.
There's so much pressure on him, man.
Yeah.
He's an arrogant play caller, and some of the things if Sam Darnold is good on the run, roll him out of the pocket. Like last year, the built-in excuse was, well, it's the first year in the offense. I had to see what I have. All those excuses are gone now. What he's good at now. It's pretty obvious.
Mhm.
So play call to his strengths and let him have a chance to make guys around him better. Like I think if he has time, he can make some of these guys better. Like we talked about Herndon, maybe you do different things, and then they have a chance. Like I think 8-8 could be a playoff spot in this weird, strange year.
Mhm.
Not that like that's my goal to be let's make 8-8, but I think for this team, that's kind of be where they could fall if things kind of roll right. You know.
Mhm.
We have a question: did the Jets get over 16.5 points on Sunday? Did they go over?
That's a good question. This could be like a 17-14 game. I don't know. That's a good question. I'll say this is killing me. Probably not. I think it's gonna probably be like they'll probably score like
Right
10,
there.
13 points.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's right
I
there
hate
for
being
us high.
honest.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. What else we got? Anything else? Anything else for Ty? We have Jake. Do you have anything?
Last kind of thing I wanted to know is, let's say, you had to say right now, what is the contract future for Sam Darnold? Like, if you had to place a bet, because like that's got to be so like even for Josh Allen, it's a tough thing to try and predict right now. But for Sam Darnold, I can only imagine. Like, where do you see that going? Like fifth year option probably, and hope he can prove himself through that.
There's so much speculation right now with him where everybody's like, make or break year from him. He's got to prove himself. Is he a franchise quarterback?
Mm-hmm.
Can he stay healthy for 16 games and not get mono and hurt his ankle and everything else? Like, this is a big year for him, man. Because, like,
For sure.
believe it or not, there's a portion of his fan base that's done with him already. Like,
Really, I can't imagine that.
He just do it, and I can't do it. I go nuts.
I get being frustrated, but like you can't be done with him.
Dude, there are people saying this is make or break year. If he doesn't get a good year this year, he's out of here. Go get Trevor Lawrence. And I'm like, you out of your minds. Like, you just don't look at the big picture. But in terms of his contract, you kind of want to know like this year for the Jets, you want to kind of learn what Darnold is and learn what Gase is. Like, what do we actually have here as a head coach? What do we have as a quarterback? And then next year, it's the contract's gonna be a mess, dude. Like, it's just I don't know what to expect now. But I have a question for you guys though.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think about Cam Newton and the Patriots?
I mean, in my eyes, like last year he didn't look great at all. Like he kind of like him moving around looked like David Johnson moving around. Is like the same thing. Like just like moving half speed as everybody else. If he's fully healthy, I think that could be a decent team just with Bill Belichick. Like it all is just because Bill Belichick is just the coach. With all the opt-outs they've had, I'm super skeptical. And even Damian Harris, who is probably going to be their starting running back, isn't going to be ready for week one. They're going to have Sony Michel out there, who's averaging like 3.3 yards a carry over the first years of his career. So I mean, I feel like they'll be in that wild card mix. I'm like it's weird to say because Bills fans are like we can't say we're going to win the playoffs because we can't win the division because we haven't done it before since so long. But this is a year where we should kind of be expecting it. I don't expect the Patriots to make that much noise in the division, and I feel like I could definitely see the Jets having a better season than the Patriots. I feel like one of those two will make it as a wild card. It's kind of a toss up for me as which one.
So then, what do you guys see? You guys making like your record? You looking like 11 wins this year? You looking 10-6? What do you guys think for the Bills?
We did our show recap. I had them at 11-5. I think Jake had them at 12-4.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So, yeah, it was very aggressive. 11-5 is probably right.
Just on the Jets Dolphins games, really, if they go 4-0 in those, that 12-4 is in play.
Yeah.
I can't predict it. Even New England in the peak of it didn't go 6-0 in the division. Even in the peak of it, they lost to Miami like once a year. It's felt
always
like
a weird one. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Even in their heat of it, and maybe something happened where they might have starters still lost. So I just can't predict 6-0 from the division. It could be New York that catches them week 1, maybe week 7. It could be Miami that catches them week 2 or week 15. I just don't know. I can't predict them to go 6-0. I just can't predict them to go 6-0 in the division. New England defensive roster is awful. If Cam Newton's really good, he's done stuff with Philly Brown and other terrible players. And if he's really
Fozzie Whitaker.
If he's really good, we're all kind of, if you want to say it, in trouble because Bill Belichick's a good enough coach. If Cam Newton's back to Cam Newton, we're in trouble. That defense is still pretty good. That offensive roster is terrible. I mean, it's just not very good up and down. I mean, Demir Bird's their third. Talk about bad receiving room. They're relying on Nikhil Harry. Yep. And just Demir Bird and Gunnar Olszewski and Jacoby Myers, and it's just not good. It's just not good.
Yeah.
Like Jake mentioned, Harris starting on IR. They lost Brandon Bolden already. It's Dan Vitale, their fullback, who they like to use. It's just really just Sony Michel and James White right now. I can't get behind them winning many games, to be honest. I just don't see it. I think they'll be right there with the Jets. I mean, those games between New York and Miami.
They're going to be meaningful.
New England, yeah, they're going to determine if someone can come out at 4-2 or something with the Bills played in there. I think they have a good shot to snap that set, and it could be. I don't see why, looking at those three rosters, if they buy into Gase's philosophy. To me, from the outside looking in, I don't see why one of those three teams can't be 8-8, 9-7 for sure, right in the mix. And I don't know why it wouldn't be New York to me. Looking at it, I'm like, they have some talent across the board. If it meshes by week 8 or something,
that's the goal.
I could see them overpassing Miami's helter-skelter roster, random free agents, and I could see it beating New England's opt-out / potentially tanking roster. We'll see. It's all based on Cam. If Cam Newton comes out and is good, this is,
who the hell knows?
We're all going to have a tough time with them because their defense will come to play. But similar to them, New England could roll down the negative hill real quickly, too, and know that they're playing for the first overall pick, and Cam Newton stops carrying because he knows he's out, and then this happens, and then that happens. Missing some front seven pieces, but that secondary is scary good. They have cornerbacks galore.
They do.
That can match up with the Bills. They do have 4 good cornerbacks. So we'll have to see how that happens with Bill Belichick. But at this point, until I see Cam put something together for a couple straight weeks, I'm looking at that at 7-9. They're 7-9 to me right now.
Yeah, well, Ty, go ahead.
Dolphins with Fitzpatrick too. I mean, that's Fitzpatrick. The first year is always good. Second year, Fitzpatrick always falls apart.
Yeah, right.
The Dolphins are going to be. The Dolphins have more talent, but I don't think Tua is going to probably play to what, mid-season.
Yeah, at the earliest. Yeah.
I see week 8. But I mean, once again, we really appreciate having you on. Maybe we're
Absolutely.
Maybe a recap week 7.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah. Hopefully we'll have some. Maybe not week 1, but you'll get some luck in the first few games, first 4 weeks, and you'll be in a spot where we can have some interesting conversation.
Where can we find your work? Where can Bills fans find your work or good Jets work in general?
Yeah.
I mean, Bills fans are really into it this year. It's potentially their year, so they're interested to know where can they find stuff.
We got Bills fans on our YouTube channel. We do a Let's Talk Jets Radio on YouTube, and a lot of Bills fans are interacting with us. We do a lot of previews and recaps. We do a live stream after the game on Sunday. We broadcast live. So we're at Talk Jets Radio, Instagram and Twitter. That's it, man. We just talk football, man. No agendas, no narratives. We just talk football like we see it.
Love to hear that.
This is awesome, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man. I'm excited to have you back on again come week 7.
Good luck Sunday too.
Yeah, good luck. Friendly good luck. We'll end it on a positive note here. But if you win, I can't promise what I'll be sending in your DMs. So.
Final score prediction, Ty. Give us your final number right now.
Oh, that's not fair.
Well, that's how we're gonna end the show. So you got to give us something.
Or you could just drop out the Zoom call now.
14-13 Jets.
Okay, that's fine.
So they're covering the spread.
That's fine, Ty. What do you have for us, Jake? What do you have?
I was thinking about it. I'm going like 27-13. I'm saying 27-13. Le'Veon Bell and Jamison Crowder, I think, are going to give you guys enough on offense to get a couple touchdowns out of there.
I have a 20-16 game. That's what I've been at. I think the Jets will put up a fight. I think it'll go down to the final stages, and I think the Bills defense will hang on. But I think it'll be a close game. I don't think they cover. I think week 1's going to be strange. There's going to be some fumbles. Jets are going to have some bad plays that then the Bills are going to go ahead and do something stupid right back. And that's just penalties galore. It's going to be a major penalty. I'm telling you right now, there's going to be a major penalty either on the Jets or the Bills that changed this game. And there's going to be like you mentioned, a bad special teams play. Bad kicking. The Jets are going to botch a punt. The Bills are going to do something stupid with a punt. It's bad special teams and a penalty. So we'll
that's all it takes.
But I see 20-16. But that's one play. I mean, that's one Josh Allen fumble on a scramble. That's one bad missed kick by Ficken. It's so, I think the Bills are a little more talented at least week 1. Week 7 scares me a little bit more in New York with some of that stuff meshing after 6 weeks.
And who knows if there are fans at that point? Who the hell knows?
Yeah. Who knows if we're still playing at that point?
There's that too.
All things considered,
yeah.
We'll luckily revisit this, but we'll send some Bills fans your way to your YouTube show. Really appreciate you having you on, and I'll let Jake wrap this up.
Yep, thanks, Kevin. As you guys always know, the show brought to you by Picasso's Pizza. This is still here. I really have to go put it back in the freezer before this. If I don't know if it was coming out of the picture before, but this is an actual box of Picasso's Pizza. So thank you to them for sending it. Thank you to Ty for joining us again. Can't wait to have you back on in week 7. For Kevin, all of Trainwreck Sports, We'll see you next week.